Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of the Worlds Through a Lens podcast. I'm your host, Bill Rosado, and for the very majority of you, this is the very first time that you see my face in the face behind the Vizm YouTube channel. Just a little bit about me. I'm 26 years old. I really found and fell in love with VR during the Quest 1 release. That's when I thought this platform and this technology range is just outstanding, and that single moment when you load into first steps and you see the world expand across your horizon, I thought it was just mind blowing. And the fact that I could pick up a little block and stack it on top of another block, I thought it was world changing, game changing, really. And ever since then, I fell in love with VR, and I've been creating content, mainly full game walkthroughs on this channel. And while uploading those game walkthroughs are fantastic, they're great for me. Some of the love and the response you guys have reached out back to me in the comments is absolutely amazing, and I know a lot of you enjoy those. I really wanted to give this podcast as a gateway into engaging with me personally and really propelling the channel into its newer era, so to speak, to where I'm even more engaged with the community. The community has a bigger hand in what goes on within the channel, and I really want that engagement to go on between everybody in the community. So, what can you expect from this podcast? Its main goal is to interview people within the industry, hence the title Worlds Through a Lens, and really exploring different people's viewpoints when it comes to VR and VR gaming in specific. And whether that be interviewing fellow content creators, industry insiders that make the tech really, or interviewing game developers, this is going to be a look on more their perspective and kind of what they're about and how they approach VR and VR gaming. The format for this podcast, a majority of the time, will be just me one on one, opening up the show and really discussing the biggest headlines within the VR gaming space or just VR in general. And really just discussing that, giving my opinion, my take on that. And I'm completely open to community feedback in adding segments or adding unique things to do with the podcast. So please, please, please comment either down below or join the Discord. I really want to engage the Discord, whether that be more early access content, one-on-ones with some of the people that I interview, if that's possible, or even input, like I said, to what goes on to the show, maybe who to interview. So if any of that interests you, please join the Discord. I'll link it down below. And that's where you're going to have the greatest impact on what happens on the show, really. So, like I said, the format will be me opening the show, discussing a list of news topics, and that can change, that can vary depending on what input gets added, really. Then the second half of the show, which will be a majority of the show, is my interview with my guest. Again, whether that's a game dev, industry insider, content creator, or maybe even a fan of the community that's genuinely engaged and people think I should have on, really. This will be a weekly, once a week podcast, usually every Thursday, if not every Friday. Sometimes these interviews have to get cleared, so that could maybe delay the podcast to Friday. But a majority of the time, the podcast should come out every Thursday. I expect this to be a hour to an hour 30-minute podcast. Sometimes we can go over depending on how talkative my guest is, which I personally I'm a fan of, and I don't mind going over that time frame to 140, even 150. The interview we have this week is a wonderful game developer, Eyal Geva. He is the co-founder of Peanut Button Studios, who has created such games as The Secret of Retropolis and Retropolis 2 Never Say Goodbye. I'm very honored to have him as my first guest in my first interview. I think he was a perfect first guest to interview. You could really tell his passion for VR gaming and the real art behind it. So I really hope you guys enjoy that. Being the first episode, a majority of this time is just going to be me telling you what's up and what you can expect from the podcast. Um, I thankfully had a pretty long interview, and being my first guest, I want to showcase that interview in its fullest. So this opening segment of discussing news and things like that is going to be cut for just this first episode. Next week, we'll go back to it. Just because I really think the way he talks about games is really passionate, and you can really hear it in his voice. And I try to leave as much in as possible. Like I said, please join the Discord. Link will be down below. I'm trying to do giveaways there weekly at least. Not always can be done, but please give me ideas what you want to see. I would love to do way more community engagement. I try to respond to as many comments as I can, and I would love to really engage you guys on a more personal level and a more community building level. So, again, please join the Discord if you're interested in any of that or want to have any input on the podcast. And so, without further ado, here's my interview with Eyal Geva. So today, first interview of the podcast, super excited to have him here, is the co-founder of Peanut Button Games, Eyal Geva. He is also the creative director on Secret of Retropolis 2, and the previous game, was it just Secret of Retropolis? That was it, right? That was the first title.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, well, yeah, I can fix a little if you want, but I'll say it's an honor to be here. I'm glad there's a new podcast for us VR game creators to talk on. Just a little fix. My name is Eyal Geva, but if someone is not speaking Hebrew but only English or other languages, it's okay, and no one's get it right if you don't speak Hebrew. And the games are The Secret of Retropolis is the first game we did, and Retropolis 2, Never Say Goodbye. This is the second title. These are the names you need to type into Google in order to find them. But you can also call it The Secret of Metropolis 2. It's fine with me.
Okay, and then by the time this comes out, this should be coming out of the release date of your third game. Can you explain a little bit? Just give us a quick overview of that.
Yeah, well, we're talking now on Sunday. Later that week, this week, we're going to release Retropolis.Line. And this is something else. Our previous games are VR games. We're a VR studio, but we also made a mixed reality game, MR game, within the world of Retropolis. So if you go into mixed reality, things are different. So we had a lot of fun experimenting with mixed reality mechanics, and it's just the beginning. You know, the Retropolis, The Secret of Retropolis, and Retropolis 2 are matured game, especially Retropolis 2 with long runtime, and we did everything we could to make it as fast as possible. But the mixed reality is something new. So it's a small game. It's going to be free. So just look it up, Retropolis.Line, and you can play it, and you can see there's a potential there. I think it's fun, but there's so much to do in mixed reality and explore. So yeah.
Now, does the Retropolis.Line, does it connect into the other two games at all? Is it a sequel, or is it its own separate
We
piece?
call it okay. We call it a spin-off,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's in the same cinematic universe, but you play. in the Retropolis games, you play as Philip Log, the robotic detective. In dot.Line, you play yourself, because in mixed reality, it's other than like it was kind of a challenge to to make the two games work together in the same universe. So you play yourself in mixed reality because you can see your own hands. Would be weird if not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're connecting someone, Betty 4000, and she's from the far future, not only of the Retropolis city from the first game, which is in the future, but also from the future of that city.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Retropolis 2, you meet like the first versions of the Betty series robots, Betty 1 and
Yeah.
Betty 2.
Yeah.
So she's like light years ahead of them, like more advanced technology. And then you can, I don't know, get a poster. Like if you play puzzles and earn points, you can earn a poster of Philip Log. And she's saying, oh, he's a mythological character for us.
Mm-hmm.
But within the timeline of Retropolis 1, he's a nobody. He lives, in he sleeps in his office,
Oh,
like a cliche
so
of,
over the time he's
yeah.
become more of like a just a well-known detective, like a star kind of figure.
Yeah, it implies that, but there's need to be more of his story for
Mm-hmm.
that to happen. Like also in the end of Retropolis 2, it's just at the beginning of his epic journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? And also other, like you can earn other artifacts or merch and through them learn more. Like this was one example, but you can get some artifacts and learn more about the history of the city or get jokes, because who doesn't like jokes?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all in the same universe. It was we've put a lot of thought how to make everything work within the same timeline of
Mm-hmm.
story.
And with Retropolis 2, because you were saying that's kind of your main big game. Um, how do you feel the reception has been so far on that compared to the first one, at least?
Amazing. It's I'm humbled. Yeah, with
Mm.
the community of VR gamers is just amazing and accepting and appreciating the comments, the reviews, the chat on Discord. People just the I'm left without words because for us making VR games, it's a calling. It's we believe this to be the highest form of art, uh, and just knowing people are enjoying it, they're immersed in the story, they get what we're trying to do. There's nothing more a creator can ask for, because art is it works. It doesn't work if you do it for yourself. It needs to be out there for people to enjoy. And also compared to Retropolis 1, Retropolis 2 is a much bigger game. The Retropolis 1 was the secret of Retropolis. We saw it as a pilot episode, as if someone, like in TV, they're making the first episode and then they see how well it goes. So we released it and people loved it, but they were also a bit angry because they said, oh, we love it, but it's too short. That was the
Mm-hmm.
problem for them. It was, they said it's a great game, but it was too short. And I think many of like people writing this review, first of all, they're right. I also think it's too short,
Mm-hmm.
but we're a tiny studio, like
Yeah, because you guys increased the game length by almost double or
even more. No,
almost
no,
one and a half.
no,
No?
4 times longer. At least, at
4 times.
least, at
Okay.
least. It's a
Yeah.
puzzle game, so it's hard to say exactly. Like someone can finish it in 4 hours, someone else can finish it
Yeah.
in in 6 or 7 hours, or someone can like find all the Easter eggs and search for everything, and then you can get to 8 hours, I guess. For the new Retropolis, the original Retropolis was about 40 minutes to 1 hour of gameplay, and we're talking about releasing it on 2021. So then VR games made a long way since then, and we
Yeah. Yeah. That was the biggest year.
it was the biggest year, and also many games are what like came out to the market at that time, and they were amazing and too short.
Hmm.
Because creators, there's a limit to how much you understand what you're doing if it's not out there for people to play it, to make content for YouTube, or write reviews and say this was good, this was bad, or if it's not out there, it's hard to know, and because it's especially in 2021, it was so in the starts. We
Hmm.
had to make something short, and release it, and not just work long time, like few more years to release something that is longer without knowing how people would feel about it. And then we got the review. Oh, it's too
Hmm.
short. So we crawled back to our layer and didn't come out for 2 years. And we worked
Yeah.
very hard, put our passion and soul into this, and now we're back with yeah, 4 times longer game, and
Hmm.
so getting reviews
And
is.
real quick, can you give, since we're kind of went full circle there, can you give just a quick setup of the second game and where that entails compared to the first one?
Well, it's a very similar game. Yeah, it's like the Retropolis games are point and click VR adventure games. So you play as a detective, Philip Log, in both games, and in the second game you have a new story. It's set like after a year from the first game. There was a year, and then you come back and you can play it without playing the first game because it's a standalone. And but it starts with the relationship between Philip Log and Jenny Montage, and she's the robotic femme fatale, and famous movie star, robotic movie stars, and she lost all of her memories in the first game. Sorry for the spoiler, but it was out like 2 years ago, almost three.
Yeah.
So you should have played it. Yeah. Uh,
Exactly. Go buy it. If you haven't played it, go buy it.
yeah, yeah. Or you can play like the Retropolis 2 Never Say Goodbye, and then play the first one as a prologue. Like in the first game, we
Yeah.
really explain we explain what that city is, the city of robots. They live in the future because there's no mankind anymore, but they act as if they are humans because they want to make the past live forever. So in the first game, we really established the world. In the second game, we dive into the story. Like Jenny is kidnapped. There's a mysterious figure, goes by the name the Magician. He's a criminal mastermind, and he took Jenny, but Philip doesn't know where to find him. Right? It's a classic story, classic noir story. So we really dived into that, and harder puzzles, and yeah, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil that,
Yeah.
but I think people can understand where it's going.
And how did the idea of Retropolis even kind of come together, because the somebody might look at the surface and see, oh, it's like film noir or that noir detective kind of Chinatown style and futuristic robots. And I think that doesn't sound right, but it blends together. It blends together so good, and the overall world building and immersiveness that you guys are able to put together is just it's so excellent in my opinion. How did those that merge of styles come together?
First of all, thank you very much. I'm glad to hear you found it interesting. It was a long way to develop the idea, and it's not always that romantic like people like the fantasy of writing a story and having everything and like sitting one night and writing it for start to finish. It's a lot of iterations,
Yeah.
even for the
Yeah.
idea. We had a f- we I had the idea of developing some kind of story, a game story within a city that's in the retro futuristic city. I really want, and basically, I played Bioshock, you know,
Mhm. I love
and if
BioShock.
of course you like if
Yeah.
someone plays Bioshock, like it affects you, and effect like for a year or two after playing it, you just think about Rapture, the city of
Mhm.
Bioshock. So and me and my brother, that's like the origin story of the studio is me working with my older brother. I learned cinema
Mhm.
and screenwriting. Uh, from there, but also earlier, I just love film noir, detective movies, and also sci-fi, Blade Runner. While learning cinema, I also came across the movie Metropolis by Fritz Lang, and it's like the first. It's not the first sci-fi movie because you had Méliès making the trip to the moon.
Mhm.
So basically, that was the first sci-fi movie. But after Metropolis, like if you, it's a silent film, and it's not that easy to watch today because
Yeah,
it's so
I've
long.
seen a little bit of it, and I've tried, and I can't really get through it,
I
me
think it's
personally.
okay to watch, to watch a compilation on YouTube
Mhm.
of the best shots. If you're just interested to know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's basically Metropolis by Fritz Lang. It's basically the setup of every dystopian city since then, and it's like 100 years ago. Uh, so of course, just by the sound of the name Retropolis, like taking the retro
Mhm.
into it. Um, I guess it's obvious that it's a big influence. So I was making VR games with my brother. He's more the tech guy, the producer, but he also like animator.
Mhm.
So we started playing up with ideas, and I had the idea of making that game, like that game that is in some kind of a future city, but the city is trying to be in the past. Um, so we played with that for a long time and tried different ways to approach it, and with different tools of world building until things clicked up. Like the idea of having the mechanic, point and click mechanic, which is also a mechanic that is retro gaming.
Mhm.
Like we also grew up playing The Secret of Monkey Island and Manic Mansion and Grim Fandango. And if some of our listeners are young, I can tell them back in the day it was big games.
Yeah.
Maybe now less,
I,
but it
I
was
I
big
grew
games.
when that era was at its height. I was still kind of a kid, but I would play those
Hmm.
games. I would play more of the kid versions like Spy Fox, Putt Putt, but I would play
Yeah.
Sam and Max too. You know that was
Hmm.
I uploaded when they transitioned into VR. I love doing that one.
Of course, of course. There's something about VR that is, I think, also the idea for me. It's some kind of, looking at VR and trying to say something, right? Because it's the most futuristic tech, but there is so much joy in returning to the good old days
Hmm.
using VR, like playing. We're starting a new IP, yeah, but there's nothing like taking your VR goggles and meet like characters from an old computer game or old movie or something you loved back then. But we wanted to recreate that feeling
Hmm.
and try to keep it up to date, because if someone grew up playing today's game, it's hard to go back to retro game, right?
Yeah.
But we try to find that mix of taking the best of the old games, like the mechanics, and combine it with a story, a classic story of detectives and in the city. And I don't know, somewhere along the lines, it became interesting. It became something worth making. Uh, so yeah, I hope that answers the question of how we got where the idea is from. It's basically really hard to say where ideas come from. It's a long time of trying to take inspirations.
Yeah, yeah, it's a mix of many different things.
Yeah, and also in video games, especially in VR, the idea, like we had the prototype of playing a detective with jumping hands,
Mhm.
and on that we build the world to make it really work. Because uh, if I wrote a book, I could set it anywhere and do basically anything with words. But in VR, it needs to feel good. Like experience is first, in my
Do you
opinion.
are you somebody that, agrees with the idea that the limitation breeds greater creativity?
I have no choice but to believe it.
Yeah.
I we were a small team, small
Mm,
team. We were
yes.
like the first game we were four, now we were six. Um, we're such a small team that we don't have the luxury of believing anything else.
Mhm.
But yeah. Because that the jumping hands. Uh, I I don't know if we were the only one to think of it, because now you see many games are doing it.
Mhm.
Did they play our game and took massive inspiration for this mechanism of letting your hand jump to an object and bring it to you, like from afar? Maybe not. But the fact that we knew we couldn't, like, we didn't have the resources to make a game like the Room VR, which is an
Mhm.
amazing game, like the escape room game. And they're not even a AAA game, right? But they do have like all the interactions they did with like physical objects were fantastic. Um, but we knew that if we'd go that direction, we wouldn't be able to make a game and release it within a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
So like it's choose your own battles.
Mhm.
So we simplified the interaction, and then we had a lot of place for animation and dialogue and the story and the character and world building. So yeah, it's very smart to say, okay, this will be simple, and I'll do my best in everything that I can.
Which me personally, I love the voice acting. The voice acting and the overall sound, the music that you have at some moments, it it feels great. Like I got scared. I don't I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but there's a certain part where you're let's see, after you're drinking and you go
Yeah,
into a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
super,
I love
yeah,
that part.
and at the end when you get kind of reached out, like that scared me. That whole sequence scared me, and it caught me off guard because like I didn't this in my eyes wasn't supposed to be a scary game or something like that. And I think it's
Yeah.
done so good, honestly.
Thank you so much.
Mhm,
I guess this is the part I'm most proud of.
mhm,
Yeah, we can, without spoil anything. I think people know that feeling of having a bad dream and waking up screaming.
mhm,
I wanted to go for that feeling. I wanted to and not like in the movies when you see someone wake up screaming.
mhm,
Even though like the player, if you watch it and you get into the scenery of the dream, I wanted the moment you wake up to be something scary, and I
mhm.
think it works very well within the story. And for that, we maybe we'll find some other time and talk about all the spoilery stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, this is the amazing thing of working within VR, right? Because you can, for me, this is where my passion is, because you like everyone knows that feeling, everyone knows that the way they make it in movies. In movies it won't scare you, it won't be a surprise, but in VR you can make this surprise, you can
Mhm.
make this you know yeah, I got so caught up
And
with
even
yeah,
when you
being
know
happy.
it's coming too, because I played it twice, just for
Uh-huh.
recording, and even when I know it's coming, I still get scared by it a little bit, which I think is great. Uh,
Yeah,
especially with
VR
the
is powerful.
especially with that the kind of same area, the mirror, you know that mirror thing. I'd turn, I'd look, and I'd get caught off guard of like, oh, it's there, you know.
Someone is looking at me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I really want to explore this in the future. I don't know when, but making scary stuff in VR, it's something that I feel so interesting. The new, like, Retropolis is a noir game. So in noir, you have danger, you have dangerous people, you have bad memories. So it's okay to have some spooky or unsettling moments, or like waking up from a dream in a scary manner.
Hmm.
Um, but after working on those scenes, like that part of the game, I really want to go deeper into making spooky stuff. I don't know if horror, but like not full on horror, because it's not like my. There are great games doing it. It's for me like I don't like too much blood.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe are you saying more something like BioShock level? That you said, you mentioned that, and that's kind of, it's creepy in a way, you know.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Exactly. So, more scary than Metropolis. It's something that I want to look into. Maybe in the future. Yeah, because those parts really went well. Yeah, I agree. And VR is so powerful. Yeah. Oh, you mentioned the sound. Maybe we talked about the sound,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then I was just happy that you love that moment. That you bring this moment up. Um, I want to say that sound in VR is so much overlooked, and it's driving me crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah, like so many games are, and game designers, they don't treat sound the way you could. There's so much thing you can do, and working on good sound is like the even for a small team working on VR, making your sound good using the surround around you, using the right. We work with a amazing composer. He's called Yuval Levi. You
Hmm.
can search the soundtrack of both games, The Secret of Retropolis and Metropolis 2 Never Say Goodbye. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, Apple Music. Um, so you can listen to it. He's making like, both very cinematic soundtrack and both very playful, something that is good for the places where it's more like an escape room. And it's so great to work with him, and he makes wonderful music, and it's really great way to set the mood. And then using the VR to so many games are just taking music and they slap it on on the background, and you hear the same volume on both ears,
Hmm.
and they're not using the stereo, they're not using the surround. It's so impactful
Which
to
is crucial because in VR, right? That's the whole thing, immersion. You want to be as fully immersed as possible, and if you're not using that sound to help, it's noticeable and it pulls the player out really.
I totally agree. I totally agree, and I really wish more game designers for VR would do more interesting stuff in sound. It's like it's just there. You just need to think about it. But I think it's still early in VR for VR designers. Like there's not much. I don't think there's the GDC talk about sound in VR that's going to make everyone to open their mind about that. But yeah, I hope I have the hope that if we make a good game, other game designers will play it and take inspiration, like and they'll see, oh, they're having in Metropolis One, yeah, we have a point. Without spoilers, you get punched in the head, and
Hmm.
there's animation and music. So we take element of the music and we move it through your head, like to because we want to give the impression of being a little dizzy after you got hit in the head, a bit like in a comic book world.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you get a smack in the head or a punch to the head, like everything is now colorful. Um, so there's an element of music going through your head from right to left and back, and maybe most of people don't know that's what we're doing. They just feel some kind of dizziness.
Which would you agree that's better that it goes kind of unnoticed, but the effect of it goes noticed.
Exactly, exactly. When someone plays, he doesn't know. He doesn't need to know how we do it. They
Hmm.
just need to experience it. I think more about if a game designer is trying the game and he's like inspired and he wants to know how we did stuff, he'll need to play the game for 2, 3, 4 times, and then notice, oh, this is what they're doing in sound. Oh, this is what they're doing in animation. Oh, this is how they build the puzzle to fit with the story. When someone is just playing, he doesn't need to think about it. He just needs to have fun.
Hmm. And real quick, you mentioned that you guys are doing a new IP. Is there anything you could say about that, or?
No, no, it's very early, very early. Like we are interested in exploring more spooky stuff,
Hmm.
but it's not something we can. It's very early. I still don't know if we're talking about something that will happen or just something that is
Hmm.
interesting me as a creator. You know.
Yeah. Is Retropolis, is that done for, or is there going to be a third to tie things
I
off,
really
or
hope there will be
yeah?
a third. There's a big story to tell. There's a
Hmm.
huge story coming
Yeah.
up. Like I have the story for a few more games in my head.
Hmm.
Yeah, or and written down just for myself. Like there is a plan. There are, you know, in there are hints for mysteries within the game world that I want to explore.
Hmm.
I'm not sure what will be a spoiler or not, but there are, like, the second game, it it has an ending, right?
Hmm.
We wanted to have an ending and feel like a full circle. And Philip, he was someplace and he went on a journey, and then by the end he's changed, but the story is not over.
Yeah.
So I really want to make a new Retropolis game, but I don't know when we'll do it, because now, like, we released it.
Hmm.
Yeah, the full game is out there on App Lab and on Steam, but there are new headsets we need to be on.
Yeah.
And for Quest, we really want to get those good reviews. And if we need to fix something, to fix it and make the move from App Lab to the main store to get more impressions and more people just knowing the game is out there.
Was the first one on Quest Store, or am I
The
confused?
Secret of Metropolis, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's on the.
Okay.
It was released initially on
Hmm.
App Lab,
Hmm.
but it got tons of good reviews and people just loved it, and it was a good timing. So we went to the official store of the Quest, and we really hope the same will happen with Retropolis too.
That's interesting, because I
Uh,
would think, since you've already had a proven game on the Quest Store, the second one wouldn't just get pushed there immediately.
I think the same.
Hmm.
If it was up to me,
Hmm.
uh, it will be like this. But the Quest store, it's a process. It's a process. Something that is part of the deal of having, that one headset that for now is basically very, like, the main headset for headset. I guess most users, I wouldn't say all of them, because we have players on Steam, we have players on Pico, there are players on PSVR, and we're doing our best to also serve them. But all in all, the Quest is the major platform, and they guard it, and I can understand it. Because VR, before the Quest, there was a lot of, I don't want to use bad word, but I'll say unquality games and
Yeah.
apps
No, no, you
for.
go ahead. There was a lot of dog shit.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm fine with saying not so good
Yeah.
games out there. And VR is, as we said, it's so powerful
Hmm.
that someone can try one bad game and not want to touch VR
Yeah. Hmm.
again. So I understand why they guard it, and it's okay. Also, the new Retropolis game is a whole new game.
Hmm.
So it's fair that we'll go through that process. If anyone is listening to us and also think like you and I that this game should get more attention, a review on our Apple page would be very beneficial, because it's really, it matters. It matters if you have bunch of reviews, people saying this game is unique, this game is great. We know that shooters or anything that is, zombie-like game, not zombie roguelike game, there'll be like the massive hits. But these games, like the Retropolis games, they deserve attention. They're quality made. They bring something new to the table.
Hmm.
So it makes a difference. That's the way we moved from the with the first game, The Secret of Retropolis. It wasn't our charisma. It was the community, and the community just loved that game. But we sit with that game. That's the reason you're talking to me, like
Yeah.
because you like the game. So I believe eventually making something good, it's the best thing for game design.
And do you have any advice for the small dev, the one man team dev trying to get past that hurdle of getting on App Lab and getting to the Quest store?
It depends on the that dev's where he is at right now. If you're just starting out, if you're just starting out, uh, first of all, be patient. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. Even like now when we're talking, I'm saying, oh, the first game we did was The Secret of Retropolis. I'm saying it because it was the first game that had success. We had many, smaller games that we barely finished, or we didn't take them to the store, only for location-based VR on exhibitions and festivals. So be patient. I'd say also, if we're solo dev, I'd say find someone to work with, um, because it's so hard. So I'm doing it with my brother, and he's doing the tech stuff. I'm doing the creative, marketing, writing, and some production. Um, so it's good that we fit. We're a good team because we understand each other. We're brothers, so basically we have the same brain. But he went and learned the tech stuff, and I went and learned cinema, so we can make a cinematic game. Uh, so that's that. And it's very important when approaching VR to remember that no one knows anything. I can't express this enough.
Hmm.
It's so early. So
Yeah.
if someone has passion and just try something, make a 5 minute game and send it to friends. And now, when we started out, it was hard to find people with VR to test on, so we needed to invite people. And I'd recommend that for first prototypes, just invite people and see them play. It's very important, because VR can be so frustrating when you don't understand what you're doing. So you need to see those people, not like your friends, your family. We play tested on our mother, and it's a great
Yeah.
way to understand that you designed something and your mother won't understand it.
Mm.
Yeah. So you needed to make it more clear. And if she gets it, or anything else really that is not from the VR community, um, so you made a good design. In my opinion, a good design, it's when like VR design, VR interaction design.
Mhm.
It's not when someone who's VR passionate understand what you're doing, because they played a bunch of games. Someone who didn't try many things before. And if you get some kind of a cool idea, some kind of a cool mechanic, um, built on that. Like if it works for 5 minutes, make the 10 minutes. If
Hmm.
it works for the 10 minutes, it will work for the 20 minutes.
And kind of just a rinse and repeat and keep going and going.
I I did we did the same.
Hmm.
Even with the Secret of Retropolis, it worked. So we said, okay, let's take this game and make it a lot longer
Yeah.
because now we know there are people who want it.
And when I kind of want to go back a little bit with because
Sure.
you mentioned your brother there.
Hmm.
How did you guys decide that VR we want to start a VR studio, a game studio, and we want to make VR games? How did that come about?
Okay, it start. I'm trying to remember. You
Yeah.
know, it's a
You're
long
good.
time ago.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago. Okay, and every time we tell the story differently because we remember new stuff. You know, we were brothers for a long time, and we always were creative. We loved doing stuff. We since we were kids doing stuff together in computers, basically on computers, like small games, PowerPoint. Was a fun tool for young kids to make narrative games.
Hmm.
Um, and my brother Asaf went to I don't remember the year, but he went to a like a big convention. I can't remember the name, but it's one of the big in graphics. I'm embarrassed that I don't remember the name. But he was there. He saw the VR headset. He ordered it, like the what was it called? SDK2 from Oculus.
Hmm.
One of those, not SDK. Also, he's the tech guy, so this is why I don't remember it. A long story short, my brother ordered the first Oculus headset, the DK1 or the DK2, one of them before even the controllers. It was just looking around, and he was a student at the time, and he made a wonderful combination. Like in his studies, studies studied both uh, computer and graphics and animation in a different university. So it was like a combined degree where you learned both things. So to for the end of his for his graduation work, he wanted to use VR, and at the time I was learning screenwriting, so it was so natural for the two of us to work on this together. And he did a couple of experiments, and I just helped writing it and putting it together from the ideas side. And it was fun. It was fun to make. It was fun to see people reacting to that. Like at the same time, I worked on a few, like I worked before in radio, television, a few film productions, and I never seen anything like uh, someone reacting to VR headset, like
Yeah.
for content within VR. Um, so I knew it's something worth exploring because because I've seen so much effort going into making a film, a short film, and having a bit of yawns from the audience. It's also because I was very
Mhm.
early, like really early, within my journey as a creator. But also there's something there's something within VR that is so cool, so new, so exciting that we wanted to explore it. So it was a hobby for a few years, like doing ad hoc game jams, or there was a competition, so we made something, and at one moment we said, let's do it. Let's leave our day jobs and just make VR. And if it doesn't work, we'll go back to our day jobs. And since then, we're making games,
Yeah.
and like the games are selling, so we can continue. So that's
Yeah.
maybe I don't know. Maybe one day we'll go back to our day jobs, and we will be sad
Hmm.
about all the Retropolis games we didn't make and want to. But for now,
Yeah.
this is the story. Yeah.
Well, I hope not, because I love Retropolis 1. Retropolis 2 is even better. Um, I wish you and your brother
Thank
nothing
you
but
so
the
much.
best, and hope you got your game continues to sell. So, real quick, closing out here, where do you think the future of VR is heading right now?
That's a big question, and I can
Yeah.
only guess. I can
Hmm.
only guess. Because as a creator of VR, since the beginning of Peanut Button, me and my brother, we had this kind of approach of, okay, let's see what's out there now and work for that. Like work for and not try to predict the future. Like we don't try to make games that will be successful in 5 years because who knows. But I think we'll see three trends. In my opinion, which is the opinion of a small time developer, has not much. I can't affect the market. I can like create
Hmm.
within it. I think we'll see first of all the rise of high end VR. Like
Hmm.
I can see already a few treadmills going like popping and like quality.
Do you think Apple's going to be a big part of that whole trend, that whole push to higher end?
No, I think Apple will be some kind of a
Mm,
different
okay.
trend. I think when I mean high end, it's not just like the best
Yeah.
equipment, but also taking it more to the Ready Player
Okay.
One scenario. Like, well, people will have vests and treadmills and like PC connected super like 8K headsets. I think it will be a niche, but it will be strong, and I think that people with those like high end crazy setups will just have followers because it's so cool. So I
Hmm.
think we'll have that. I think on the other hand, we'll also see the rise of cheap VR, like and like many accessible VR headsets and accessible VR games. Not from Apple, maybe like from like with your phone, you can buy your phone from
Hmm.
a known brand, or some something that is you don't know the brand and it's cheaper, probably
Hmm.
made in China or I don't know where. I think we'll
Oh,
see also
okay.
that.
So basically, what Zuckerberg did with Quest, right, making it more accessible to the masses, and then
Mhm.
you'll think we'll even see another level under that that's even more accessible.
Yeah, yeah, or the Quest will have some kind of
Hmm.
light
Hmm.
edition. Uh, I think this is going to be a big trend. I think that people are in the industry are underestimating the pockets of big fans of VR, and once it will be cheaper, more people will just
Hmm.
go into that. And the third trend I think that will happen is Apple and Apple, the Samsung headset that I don't know how much it will be priced. And I think this will be the basically mainstream VR, but it will take time. It will take a lot of time. especially because of
Hmm.
price, um, and because of they're taking a very different approach to VR, which I think that eventually will be mainstream. But I don't know. They're taking the approach of the very, very different from, you could say, the metaverse, the Zuckerberg metaverse, that really wants you to be in a different world, or have your own avatar. Also, something that is very Ready Player One. They're saying they're coming to VR from the angle of you'll keep make the same things you do with technology today. They don't promise you the future of like, in the future everybody will be 3D avatar. They're saying you'll be surfing the web, you will be watching TV, you will be working on with
Hmm.
Microsoft Word, but everything will be cooler because it'll be, in your
Yeah.
space. You'll have more freedom. You'll have bigger screens. So as a VR creator, I get some kind of sadness, I guess, because I know there's such a big potential with someone wearing a headset. But I think that the biggest trend of the future will be regular VR, like or mainstream VR will be, the regular stuff. But once it gets a lot of people in, they will explore. They will explore. There will be, and games will be the biggest means of exploration. Because if someone will have okay, not the first Vision Pro, the third or the fourth Vision Pro, right? Which will be cheaper, or the Samsung equivalent, or the Quest equivalent, something that it's like your personal computer. Instead of a laptop, you will have glasses because you can get a bigger screen. Yeah, when the price will be just like the price of a laptop, and it will be useful for many people the same way. They'll maybe they'll just get the headset because you can get more screens. But in there will be a game option, and some games will be just like computer games, 2D flat computer games. But other games will be immersive VR games. And here's the big potential, because when they'll play a game, they'll just have fun and see like how much, oh, the scare, like it's more immersive, it's more fun, the story is gripping me, the jump scare is terrifying, much more with that. And this the way, like, this is why I think games are art, because after they'll play, you know, after they'll play a good immersive narrative adventure game, they won't be able to see a headset the same way they did before. So okay, they will, the mainstream audience will buy a headset from Apple or something like that, because they will be able to watch movies on bigger screen. Okay, okay, and when the price will go down, they'll think it's other. It's maybe I can buy a bigger screen for my TV set or a
Yeah. Yeah.
headset. They'll think about it just like that. But the immersive games and the immersive narrative games can change their mind once they're in there.
Great. Wow. Perfectly said. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being the first guest on my podcast here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Real quick, where can people find your game? Plug all your socials, everything, and if you guys are interested, I'll have them down below so you can go and take a look.
So basically, the easiest way to approach it will be our link tree. If you go to linktree.com/Retropolis, you'll find within one page our links to our games. You'll get there The Secret of Retropolis, which you can find on many headsets, mainly Steam, Quest, and Pico. Retropolis 2, which now is on Steam and Quest, and Retropolis.Line, which is a mixed reality game that you can get for free for your Quest. Best experience on Quest 3 for the mixed reality. Uh, we also have mailing list, Twitter, Discord. If anyone wants to join our Discord, is welcome. We're very approachable. We're talking about fan theories. People have a few questions, and we answer them. So yeah, from the link tree you can find all the links to our social media and follow us. And yeah, we need the audience's you know follow fellowship and writing reviews and comments. It really does help. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah.
Thank you guys so much if you made it all the way to the end of the podcast. Again, big shout out to Eyal Geva for being the very first guest on a Worlds Through a Lens podcast. It really means a lot, and I really look forward to having him back on as a guest sometime soon. Again, if you like the podcast or want to see the podcast get better, please join the Discord. I cannot stress how much it means to me that you guys are engaged with this podcast as much as you can be. Um, Leave comments, leave voice messages, leave a rating for us. It really helps out a lot to for us to get discovered and for the reach to grow and interview people that you guys want to see on this podcast. Leave your input on who you would like to see, on what segments you would like to see added, things you would like to see done overall, either with the channel or the podcast. And it really means a lot to me that you guys watched and listened this far. And I really hope we can have something here that feels a little bit different, a little bit new, and can be evolved throughout time, really. Again, I appreciate you guys so much. I really hope you enjoyed this first episode of the podcast, and to many more episodes to come. Thank you guys for listening. Bye bye.